Forget your grandfather's tales about how the Kalashnikov doesn't need cleaning for decades.
Not many people have seen a Bigfoot in the woods.
While the American rifle jams from a speck of dust. Today, we're blowing those myths to atoms. This is a battle between the two most famous shooting schools in the world. West versus East, modularity that evolved over decades versus an attempt to stretch a tactical accessory set over an outdated Soviet base. The Russian AK-12 against the American AR-15 and its Ukrainian clone, the UAR-15. Which assault rifle actually dominates in the harshest war of the 21st century? Let's go. Round 1. Concept and ergonomics. Let's start with the foundation. The actual philosophy behind these two completely different killing machines. The AR-15 is a masterpiece of engineering, and there's a reason it's called Lego for adults. The whole idea of this rifle is that the receiver is split into two parts, the upper and the lower. This gives you an insane tactical advantage. You can swap calibers or barrel lengths right in the field just by swapping the upper with 2 pins. Ukrainian fighters use this feature constantly. As one Ukrainian SOF lieutenant puts it, "I built this rifle for myself. I put on a short upper, changed the stock, added a red dot, laser, flashlight, and suppressor." The rifle perfectly adapts to winter clothing or heavy armor thanks to the adjustable stock. The AR-15's ergonomics are dialed into the millimeter. Magazine release right under the index finger, fire selector under the thumb, and the legendary bolt catch that lets you chamber a round in a fraction of a second after a mag change. Reloading an AR-15 requires minimal fine motor skills. Now let's look at the Russian AK-12. This is a pathetic attempt to modernize the AK-74M and sell it for serious money. The Russians tried to make it more tactical by adding Picatinny rails and a new stock, but what they got was a genuine Frankenstein. First, not a single part on the AK-12 is interchangeable with the old, battle-proven AK-74. If a part breaks on your AK-12 in combat, you can't cannibalize it from a captured paddle. Your super modern rifle becomes a dead chunk of metal. Second, the ergonomics are stuck in the last century. Instead of a proper magazine well, an archaic system where you have to hook and rock the mag. There's still no bolt hold open after the last round. You just hear an empty click and have to manually yank the heavy bolt from the right side, taking your hand completely off the grip. On top of that, the handguard on the AK-12 is made from such cheap plastic that it wobbles from a light touch. And the stock? Since 2018, the Russians have been constantly redesigning the AK-12 stock because no version actually fits soldiers or provides any real shooting comfort. Round 1 goes to the American platform that evolved, while the Russian one just tried to put lipstick on an old Soviet rifle. Time to step up to the firing line and see which of these systems more effectively turns lead into results. Round 2, ballistics, accuracy, and recoil. Here we have two legendary intermediate calibers, 5.56 by 45mm NATO in the AR-15 versus 5.45 by 39mm in the AK-12. The 5.56 round brings insane velocity, over 3,000 feet per second, a high ballistic coefficient, and excellent flat trajectory past 200 meters, about 650 feet. Modern military barrels for the M4 and Ukrainian UAR-15 have a 1:7 twist rate, which means the barrel perfectly stabilizes heavy bullets, armor-piercing, tracer, and incendiary NATO standard ammunition. The Soviet 5.45 by 39mm shouldn't be underestimated either. It earned the nickname Poison Bullet for a reason. Due to its shape and construction, this round has a disturbing ability to tumble upon impact with soft tissue, creating devastating wound channels. But ballistics mean nothing if you can't hit the target. And this is where a fundamental difference in operating systems comes in. The AR-15 uses a direct impingement gas system. Propellant gases travel through a thin tube directly into the receiver and push on the gas key of the bolt carrier. The moving mass is minimal, and everything moves in a straight line with the barrel and stock. The result? Virtually zero muzzle rise. Shooting an AR-15, especially with a mid-length system, the recoil feels like the bolt carrier is hitting a soft pillow. This rifle lets you dump a magazine in incredibly tight groups. The AK-12's operating system is the classic massive long-stroke gas piston, connected to the bolt carrier. This heavy chunk of metal flies back and forth above the barrel, creating a noticeable impulse and serious muzzle movement during fire. To compensate, the Russians crammed a 2-round burst mode into the AK-12. The idea was supposedly to force conscripts to shoot in a controlled manner. In practice, this mechanism made an already bad trigger even worse. The AK-12 trigger is terrible, heavy and mushy, like pressing a sponge. As experts put it, they took the old AK trigger, made it smoother, but somehow made it much worse at the same time. What's worse, the AK-12's accuracy is completely nullified by the appalling quality of Russian ammunition. At the front, even rounds from the same crate produce wildly different groupings and point-of-impact shifts. While the AR-15 platform can consistently shoot 1 MOA, the AK-12 remains a roughly that direction weapon, which means at ranges beyond 300 meters, about 1,000 feet. The AR shooter is the dominant hunter. Another round in the West's column. The AR-15 is more accurate, more comfortable, and shoots softer. But it'll break immediately in a trench from a speck of dirt, shout the Soviet weapon fans. Well, get ready for the biggest myth-busting moment in firearms YouTube history. The myth that the AK never breaks, and the AR-15 fears dirt traces back to Vietnam, when early M16s were issued without cleaning kits and with the wrong powder. The modern war in Ukraine has settled this debate once and for all. Let's break down the mud test. Structurally, the AR-15 is a closed ecosystem. When the dust cover is closed and the magazine is inserted, dirt simply has no way to get inside the receiver. Even if you pour a handful of sand or mud directly onto the rifle, it will still fire. Meanwhile, the famous AK-12, like any Kalashnikov, has a large gap behind the safety selector when it's off safe. Liquid mud, water, and sand go right in there, directly into the trigger group. Real mud tests prove it. If you submerge an AK in swamp water, the muck penetrates the deepest internals, and the rifle simply refuses to close the bolt. But YouTube tests are one thing. Let's look at the reality of the most brutal trench warfare of the modern era. Ukrainian forces adopted a licensed version of the American rifle, the UAR-15. The claimed service life of its chrome-lined barrel is an impressive 10,000 rounds. On the front line, Ukrainian soldiers literally abuse their AR-15s, subjecting them to freezing temperatures, moisture, and trench mud. And the system runs like a Swiss watch. Yes, the AR-15's gas system does foul the bolt carrier group faster. It poops where it eats. And it needs more frequent lubrication. But modern AR-15s built from quality materials can comfortably handle thousands of rounds without a single drop of oil or cleaning. Now let's look at the AK-12. This is a total design failure by the Russian defense industry. Russian military personnel are experiencing critical malfunctions right in the middle of combat.
One failure.
The fire selector is unreliable. It simply doesn't lock into position properly, forcing soldiers to frantically fiddle with it under heavy incoming fire. On top of that, the AK-12 rusts. The metal finish is so cheap that the paint literally flakes off, and the rifle develops visible rust right in the hands of Russian soldiers. Ukrainian assault troops are openly mocking it. I have never in my life seen a rusty AR-15. The situation is so catastrophic that Russian Special Forces operators are mass abandoning these modern AK-12s and going back to their old, proven AK-74s. If even the enemy refuses his own new weapon in favor of 40-year-old hardware, that's a verdict. So who wins? The answer is obvious. The AR-15 and its combat modifications like the Ukrainian AR-15 or the American M4, represent the pinnacle of assault rifle evolution. It's a light, incredibly accurate modular weapon with perfect ergonomics and high closed system reliability. It allows the modern fighter to dominate the battlefield, adapting to any conditions, from CQB with a suppressor and red dot to medium-range shooting with optics. On the other side, the AK-12 is a symbol of the degradation of the Russian arms industry. The attempt to create something new resulted in the loss of legendary reliability, no parts interchangeability, appalling material quality, rusting, and zero ergonomics. The AK-12 lost this war before it was even officially adopted into service. If you enjoyed this brutal breakdown, hit like and smash that subscribe button so you don't miss the next weapons showdown. And now a question for you, gentlemen. If you had to jump into a trench on the zero line right now, what would you pick up? A fully kitted out AR-15 or Granddad's classic AK-74? Because we're not even mentioning the AK-12. Write it in the comments. We'll be reading. Stay safe and support Ukraine.